Standing Order 216.2 provides that a member appointed to a departmental committee at the commencement of a parliament at any other time during the term of parliament shall, unless the House resolves otherwise, serve for the term of the parliament, subject to Standing Order 217. Mr. Speaker, Standing Order 176. Standing Order 176, Mr. Speaker, provides the criteria, Mr. Speaker, of the discharge of a member from a committee. Mr. Speaker, I have been a member of the Departmental Committee on Energy, Forestry, and Mining. Standing Order 176 provides that a party may discharge a member from a select committee after the member has been accorded an opportunity. Number two, it provides that the party whip of the party that nominates a member to a select committee shall give notice in writing to the Speaker with the intention of discharging that member from that select committee. And number three, most important, the Speaker shall, within 3 days of receipt of the notice, under paragraph 2, inform the member. Mr. Speaker, I am a member of the Departmental Committee on Energy, or on Environment. And Mr. Speaker, if I have been removed, the standing orders provide that 176 shall apply on Standing Order 216. It is even written there. Mr. Speaker, you cannot remove a member from a committee. I am not in the list on the Committee on Environment, Forestry and Mining, which I was nominated to at the beginning of this parliament. Mr. Speaker, even if Osoro, even if Ichung'wa does not want me in this committee, you must remove me procedurally. Give me a hearing, notify the Speaker to give me a notice. Mr. Speaker, it will not be in order to continue with whatever is happening here, because it is okay to remove me. It is within the procedure and rules. These standing orders, Mr. Speaker, you are one of the creators of these standing orders. I have used them for the last 12 years. I was a whip of a county assembly, so I know how to use standing orders. You cannot remove me without, I need letters written to me. Accord me a hearing. After according me a hearing, now give notice to the Speaker. The Speaker will tell me within 3 days, you cannot remove me in the morning. I have been a member of this committee and I cannot remove in the manner in which you want to remove me. However powerful you might be, Mr. Speaker, it is not correct. Whatever has been tabled before this House, Mr. Speaker, is kangaroo, it is null and void, it cannot operate because they are standing orders and the procedure and rules of this House, the traditions. When Mheshimiwa Kimani Ichung'wa, when several honorable members were de-whipped from committees, the Honorable Wangwe, who is the immediate former whip, wrote letters to specific members. And apart from that, the communications were done directly to the Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I cannot be removed from and the Speaker cannot oversee my removal from a committee, a departmental committee, without me being discharged by my political party. And Mr. Speaker, because you are the Solomon of this House, kindly do not proceed with this motion in the state that it is, and it will be a procedural wrong. This is the making of Kimani Ichung'wa, which cannot work in this assembly. Thank you very much.
Yes, Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, the member for Kajiado North is my very good friend, and he served as a member of the County Assembly of Kajiado. And he has clearly read out to us the standing order. I will choose to ignore the invocation of the name Kimani Ichung'wa, which is now a spot for those who have nothing else to speak about. They can only speak about Kimani Ichung'wa, and I know why he's trying to invoke my name. But I will restrict myself to the provisions of the standing orders. The standing orders, Honorable Speaker, make it clear, unless otherwise resolved by the House. Therefore, I would implore on the member for Kajiado North, other than carelessly invoking the name of Kimani Ichung'wa, who is not the majority whip, because the majority whip is called Honorable Silvanus Osoro. Other than doing that, he should be spending his time now convincing the House to resolve otherwise. Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, invoking the name of Kimani Ichung'wa to look popular out there, my friend, go and do those things in the County Assembly of Kajiado, not in the National Assembly. Spend your time in the National Assembly discussing matters of greater importance to the people of Kajiado North, who are suffering without roads, whose children cannot even go to school because their member of parliament is busy following people in some other village somewhere. Why don't you follow members of your constituency in their own constituency addressing the issues? I will not allow, Honorable Speaker, any member to use my name or invoke my name to try and seek cheap publicity. Our standing orders are very clear, and Honorable Ngogoyo should know that. Deal with matters to do with your constituents. And there is also some levels of insatiable greed that we cannot be able to satisfy as a House. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, the issue raised is simple. Let the Honorable Ngogoyo convince members of this House to resolve otherwise. Otherwise, the standing order, as he read, is very well, is in very simple language that even a member of a county assembly can be able to interpret.
Osoro. Osoro.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. Honorable Speaker, when I moved this particular motion, I did indicate that coming up with a list of committees in any particular committee, Honorable Speaker, is not very easy. The movement of one to the other affects another. And it is by...
Address the issue he has raised. It's very simple.
That is where I'm heading to, Honorable Speaker. I'm making my case.
Yes.
I'm making my case that the movement of one member to another committee must affect the other because there are issues of regional balance, there are issues of gender, there are issues of party, Honorable Speaker. I am actually not aware, and I'm now checking, that the particular committee that he intended to be included, or rather he has been serving, Honorable Speaker, his name is missing. Then it must be placed somewhere for that list, Honorable Speaker.
Take your seat.
But even with that...
Take your seat. Take your seat. I expected you as a good lawyer to be listening. The Honorable Ngogoyo is raising an objection under Standing Order 176 on the allegation of discharge of a member from the committee. He is clearly out of order. What is before the House is a reconstitution of committees, is not discharge of members from any committee. If you looked at your standing orders very well, we are dealing with reconstitution of committees, and it's up to the House to resolve that the list brought by the whips is voted for in the affirmative, whereafter committees will be reconstituted, or voted on in the negative, whereafter I'll send them back to the drawing board to reconstitute the committees. When a member is singularly or with another discharged from a committee, that will then come in a separate form, and I'll address it when it does come. So you're out of order. Order, Ngogoyo. Yes, Kiamba, is that Kiamba?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I have a point to express in relation to the committees. Last time, some of us never got departmental committees. We went to the chairs concerned, we explained, and even up to now, we have not gotten departmental committee. I find this very marginalizing and not even having an altar of accountability. When you take some members as second-class members of parliament, even when we've made official requests and you are maintained, you don't have a substantial departmental committee for 2 consecutive times. I mean, is that with the fairness, what people sat down and really, and even some people are more than 2 departmental committees. I think, Honorable Speaker, I'm not here by accident. I'm here by design, and I'm here representing people who need to hear my voice in areas which matters. So I think that needs to be considered. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Yes, Ondo.
Chair, I have keenly
Address
listened.
the Speaker.
Yes, Speaker,
Yes.
I've keenly listened to the sentiment raised by members. I've also keenly listened to presentation by the majority whip. And the Honorable Chair was in the issue
Honorable Speaker.
Sorry, Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I just hope and pray that the statement made by the majority whip on the issue of appointment of chairs and vice chairs is a true statement not meant for the public gallery. Honorable Speaker, members of parliament are here by design, having been elected by their people. When they go to those committees, we do hope and pray, Honorable Speaker, that in your wisdom and in your good guidance to this House, do not allow, do not attempt, or do not permit, where issues are raised, allow the members to exercise democratic right, elect their leadership without interference from other quarters. I don't want to believe and trust it has gone unanswered, would have no other interference from any other quarter.
Oundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Undo, the Speaker has no role in the election of chairs of committees. The dynamics I've been in this space for quite some time. And when you go to committees, you have your vote. You're also subject to your whipping. You are subject to the dynamics of your coalitions, the dynamics in your parties. And I want to encourage you to leave the Speaker out of this, because this is about the various coalitions and parties in the House. Even the point raised by the distinguished member for Kiamba, you are for Kilome or Mboni? Makueni. In the House Business Committee sits your team leader from Wiper Party, who is also the deputy leader of the minority party in the Azimio coalition. And he's satisfied with the composition of the committees. So take the argument that you have proposed back to them and let them listen to you. As it is now, this list was approved by House Business Committee, in which sits all your leadership, majority leader and his whip, minority leader and his whip, and your team leader within the enclave of Wiper. They have passed this in the House Business Committee. Now that the matter has come to the floor, you have only two options: to resolve to approve the list, or to resolve to reject the list. If you do, then your leaders will go back to the drawing board and readjust and refresh and reflect on why the motion has been negatived. But as it is now, the Speaker cannot sit on appeal here. Just like the good point raised by Honorable Ngogoyo, he's raised a good point in a wrong forum. That issue, Honorable Ngogoyo, is if you have been discharged wrongly from a committee, and what is before the House is not a discharge, it's a reconstitution of committees, then I'll listen to you and look at the provisions of Standing Order 176 and give you the due process that you deserve. But as it is now, it is neither here nor there. Yes, Makali Mulu.
Yeah, thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, just as you have said, some of us have also been in this space for some time. And I want to say, really, I'm not complaining. For me, a committee is a committee. And once you are there, you serve. But I think there are some facts, we must put them on record so that as we go to the future, they will inform this House. Honorable Speaker, when the whip was moving this motion, the only thing he didn't mention was that there was a consideration because you have a broad-based government now. That was also considered, Honorable Speaker. Why am I saying it was considered? Honorable Speaker, I've been a member of public debt. I've been the first chair of that committee for the last 2.5 years. And us as WIPA, we did agree that our members should remain in their respective committees without any movement. And I'm sure my party leader, my leader in the House, Honorable Mbui, that must have been the position. But as you can see, Honorable Speaker, I've been moved to another committee, and I have no complaints. I will serve there faithfully, I can tell you, Honorable Speaker. But I want leaders here to learn. The majority leader of this House in the 12th Parliament was my chairman in the Budget and Appropriation Committee. And because of these political considerations, he was moved to other committees. And I thought this year, he would take this opportunity and make sure that members are not punished for relating the different individuals, Honorable Speaker. So, even though we don't want to say it, the truth of the matter, Honorable Speaker, is if we want this House to move to the next level in terms of democracy, we must allow members of this House to be in committees as they request. It is very unfortunate you find our members to departmental committees, Honorable Speaker. Some of us are in two select committees. And I thought if they were to remove me from public debt, they should have given me a departmental committee so that I also have a chance to serve in a departmental committee. But you realize, Honorable Speaker, I'm moving from a select committee to another select committee, Honorable Speaker. So as I said, I'm not complaining, Honorable Speaker, and I will serve there faithfully, but all said and done, Honorable Speaker. Makali Mulu was a PhD in economics, and I thought I would serve better in public debt than I would serve in regional integration, Honorable Speaker. I don't want to go beyond that, Honorable Speaker. I will be voting for the motion, yes, but I want that to go on record on that matter.
Thank you, Honorable Bakali Mulu. You have put it on record. Again, it's a good point being prosecuted in the wrong forum. Because that point should be prosecuted in the court of Robert Mbuya and Millie Odhiambo and Junet Mohammed, not before the Speaker. Order, honorable members on their feet, take your seats. Bowen, take your seat. Today you are very, very mobile. What is the problem? Take your seats. The members standing at the back. Honorable members, since all I've been hearing are lamentations and not contributions to the motion, allow me to put the question at order number 9, which is that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 175, and further to the resolution of the House on 27th October 2022, this House approves the appointment of members to the respective committees of the House as specified in the schedule to the supplementary order paper for 5th March 2025 afternoon sitting, subject to the amendment at page 165, where the Honorable Orero Peter Ocheng MP, appearing at number 16, is replaced by the Honorable Irene Mayaka. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it. Honorable members, having passed that, you are obligated in the committees that have been reconstituted to elect leadership, chair and vice chairs, within 7 days. So this must be done on or before Wednesday next week. Tomorrow by 8 in the morning, the clerk is directed to release a schedule of meetings of the various committees so that you can be able to observe that schedule and meet as directed in the rooms directed with the clerk and his team superintending over the election of the leadership of the committees. So be on the lookout for the communication to that. the select committees. Secondly, Honorable Millie Odhiambo was sufficiently clear in her contribution that where there are gaps, order members, that where there are gaps or there are issues to be addressed like the one of Ngogoyo, Makali Mul and so on, it is work in progress. You can go back to your caucuses, to your leadership. You will be listened to. If they find merit in what you raise, then they will be able to discharge one member for another, as in the case of Ngogoyo, or do whatever replacements which they can bring to the notice of the Speaker, and as and when they come, we'll give them due process. So take this as work in progress, because these are dynamic processes. From time to time, we lose members to death, to court processes, and so on. And others have to come and replace them in those positions. So it's directed so. By tomorrow morning, the clerk's schedule will be out, and start organizing yourselves to elect your leadership. Finally, the chair of every committee or vice chair is elected in accordance with the dynamics that you all know. So go on and elect and give us leadership that will help this House. And those who will be elected chairs of committees and vice chairs, I beseech you, be the first to create quorum in the House at all times. To whom more is given, much more is expected. Those who are given that privilege to lead committees, be the first to arrive in the House, be the last to leave the House. Like I did tell you, you are truly here in my many years. The Speaker always found me in the chamber, and I followed the Speaker out of the chamber every single working day. And Honorable Kainan is my witness to this. Please try and give this House quorum to work. Thank you. Next order.
Order number 10, motion, consideration of the 2025 medium-term debt management strategy.
This motion will be moved by the chair of the liaison committee, who is the deputy speaker. And we want to thank you for improvising our operations in the absence of the committee.
Yes, thank you.
For chairing the liaison committee and giving the House progress on our work. Go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that this House adopts the report of the Liaison Committee on its consideration of the 2025 medium-term debt management strategy, laid on the table of this House on Wednesday, 5th March 2025, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 15 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012 and Standing Order 232A 7 and 8. And A, approves the 2025 medium-term debt management strategy and makes the policy and financial resolutions contained in this report. Honorable Speaker, let me begin by first thanking the members of the Liaison Committee who processed this medium-term debt management strategy. I must applaud the membership because this was the first time that the members considered the medium-term debt management strategy. In fact, Honorable Speaker, they sat until midnight last night to be able to complete the work together with the Cabinet Secretary of the National Treasury, together with his Principal Secretary and their team. And we also appreciate them. Honorable Speaker, the medium-term debt management strategy is a government policy to document, document that guides the debt management for the next financial year And over the medium term, the medium-term debt management framework assesses the cost and risk elements in the existing portfolio and develops a strategy to minimize those costs and risks in line with the set management objectives. Honorable Speaker, the medium-term debt management strategy has been prepared at a time when the country's public debt has reached 11.2 trillion by January of 2025, which is equivalent to and is 65.7% of GDP. This debt comprises of Kenya shillings 5.93 trillion as domestic debt and Kenya shillings 5.09 trillion as external debt. Honorable Speaker, despite the high level of the debt, which stands at the present value of overall public and publicly guaranteed debt at 63% of GDP. As per the latest debt sustainability analysis, this ratio is projected to decline to anchor the debt at 55% of GDP present value terms by 2028. And this, we got assurance from the Cabinet Secretary of the National Treasury that they are going to support and work hard to consolidate the government fiscal policies to ensure that they achieve this target. Honorable Speaker, the 2025 debt management strategy aims to optimize access to external concessional borrowing and to undertake liability management to minimize the costs and the risks of our debt portfolio.
Order, honorable members.
Honorable Speaker.
Hold, Deputy Speaker. Honorable members conducting various illegal kamkunjis. Madenge and your group, is that Honorable Madenge? Karemba? You are holding an illegal kamkunji in the chamber. Honorable members, this is a very important motion being moved. I would be expecting dead silence. Go on, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the 2025 debt management strategy aims to optimize access to external concessional borrowing and undertake liability management to minimize the costs and risks in Kenya's debt portfolio. Honorable Speaker, the reason why external borrowing is relatively cheaper than domestic debt is due to the large share of concessional loans from multilateral lenders such as World Bank and our development partners. Indeed, 54% of the total external debt portfolio is concessional, and that significantly contributes to the sustainability of Kenya's debt. Honorable Speaker, during our review, we noted that the external commercial borrowing is relatively expensive compared to concessional loans, as previously mentioned. To address this issue, the 2025 mid-term debt management strategy proposes to reduce the share of commercial loans by taking various measures, including paying off some of the most expensive loans and exploring cheaper debt instruments, such as our green bonds. Honorable Speaker, following the review of the 2025 mid-term debt strategy, the committee observed that the government will borrow Kenya shillings 831.1 billion, which is equivalent to the fiscal deficit in the 2025 budget policy statement. The amount to be borrowed will be sourced from domestic and external sources at a ratio of 65% and 35% respectively. We were informed by the National Treasury that it is important to have a mix of different types of debt so that you spread your risk from financial shocks. Honorable Speaker, the committee also made the key following recommendations, and which I urge members to support. We had non-financial recommendations and financial recommendations. On the non-financial recommendations that we are requesting the House to support are the following. One, to meet the Public Finance Management Act 2012 threshold of the debt to GDP in present value terms to be at 55% by 2028, the Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury and Economic Planning, should publish quarterly reports detailing progress on the fiscal consolidation as outlined in the 2025 budget policy statement. So, honorable members, what we were assured here is currently the National Treasury is operating at 63%, which is above the requirement of the Public Finance Management Act. But they have undertaken that they will reduce it to the requirement of the PFM Act to 55% by the year 2028. And they seek the support of this House as they take the steps to ensure that that happens. Two, the Cabinet Secretary of the National Treasury and Economic Planning, the Governor of Central Bank, the Controller of Budget should fully automate the withdrawal of debt service payments from the Consolidated Fund by the 31st of May 2025 and submit that report to this House, the National Assembly, within 15 days. Three, that to strengthen the financial controls and ensure accurate and timely public debt statistics and enhance decision-making for greater transparency and accountability, the National Treasury should integrate the public debt management system with the Integrated Financial Management System, also referred to as IFMIS, by the 31st of May 2025, and again submit this report to the National Assembly within 15 days of implementation. Four, that to mitigate the growing risk of domestic debt and interest payments, and to reduce the tendency of the government borrowing funds held by public entities, the National Treasury should deploy a Treasury single account, also referred to as TSA, for all ministerial departments, parastatals, with public funds by the 1st of July 2025. This will be revolutionary in our financial management, governance, and transparency and accountability, also in our public debt management. And this is the first time this is happening. Of course, we were informed that many MDAs and parastatals do not want this system because of its great transparency and accountability. Five, we also recommended that to improve the transparency and accountability in anticipated increase in domestic borrowing, the Cabinet Secretary of the National Treasury and Economic Planning should do the following within 60 days. One, form a working committee to establish the criteria for assessing the effectiveness of utilization of borrowed funds by ministries, departments, and agencies. And two, to establish a register of government securities pursuant to Section 55 of the Public Finance Management Act. And three, to create a record in the debt register of the details on the utilization of the borrowed funds, including the set of projects funded from the proceeds of infrastructure bonds. The other recommendation, 6, is that the Cabinet Secretary of the National Treasury and Economic Planning should establish an interagency committee, including representatives from the Central Bank and the Controller of Budget, to review the public debt procurement process, debt utilization, and submit a report to the National Assembly by the 31st of May, 2025. And the 7th recommendation is that the Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury and Economic Planning, should establish an interagency committee, including representatives from the Central Bank and the Controller of Budget, to review our debts and report quarterly to the National Assembly. And 8, which is the last of our non-financial recommendations, is that the Cabinet Secretary of the National Treasury and Economic Planning shall report and seek approval from the National Assembly on any variation to the approved borrowing mix in 2025 medium-term debt management strategy, which is what we have submitted now. The financial recommendations are as follows, which we are also seeking that this House supports the recommendations by the committee. That the fiscal target for the medium term is approved and set at 4.3% of GDP for the financial year 2025-2026, and 3.5% of GDP for the financial year 2026-2027, and 3.2% of GDP for the financial year 2027-2028, in line with the fiscal consolidation path. And that the country's borrowing strategy is approved at 35% for net external borrowing and 65% for domestic borrowing, as contained in the 2025 medium-term debt strategy. And Honorable Speaker, finally, let me thank the House through you, Honorable Speaker, for giving the Liaison Committee the responsibility of considering the medium-term debt management strategy. It was a unique opportunity for chairpersons of various committees to appreciate the state of the economy regarding the constrained physical space, especially as it affects various programs that require financing in all sectors. And like I said earlier, Honorable Speaker, the Liaison Committee were very diligent and worked up to midnight last night and up to 10 p.m. the night before. And as Honorable Speaker, I thank you and I beg to move and request Honorable Martha Wangare, MP for Gilgil, and Vice Chairperson to second.
The Honorable Martha Wangare.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to second this motion and this report, this medium-term debt management strategy, Mr. Speaker. And I also want to join my chair in appreciating the members of the Liaison Committee. Mr. Speaker, you realize this was not a usual kind of thing. Many of these chairs actually appear before the Budget and Appropriation Committee, but for the first time, they were able...
Order, members, order. The Honorable Murugara, the Honorable Tindi Mwale, the Honorable Indikiri, the Honorable Maklap. Could you all take your seats? Could we consult in low tone so that we could hear the Honorable Member contributing?
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the protection. I was saying, Mr. Speaker, for the first time, the chairs of departmental committees were able to interact directly with the MTDS, and more importantly, engage stakeholders on it. And Mr. Speaker, what that gave us is a unique opportunity to have a dashboard experience in terms of looking at not only your committee, but also the general overview in the country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have also taken time to learn a lot of terms that we didn't know. I personally have realized, I used to think ATM is just automated teller machine. I've realized it has another new meaning, that it is the average time for maturity for debt, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, what came out specifically, there are many issues, and I know my chair has enumerated most of them, But I will just touch on some of the issues that were raised, especially.
Honorable members, what we are discussing is a very important topic. I would wish that we hear the member in silence.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is a lot of excitement. I would think it's because of the previous motion that has passed in the floor. So, Mr. Speaker, I will continue and say some of the issues that we have raised, we took time to meet with different stakeholders. We met with the Comptroller of Budget. We met with the Office of the Auditor General. We met the Ministry of Treasury until late last night. We also met and received a memoranda from other stakeholders, including, Mr. Speaker, civil society that wrote to us. We also got a written memoranda from the Central Bank of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, the issue of our debt has been a matter of discussion for obvious reason, because it also puts a strain in our management of our revenue versus expenditure, Mr. Speaker. The reason why it is heavy on our budget, Mr. Speaker, is because it has also risen over the years. Right now, we are speaking of 67%. We are speaking of actually 67.5 to the GDP, Mr. Speaker, against a recommendation and something that is actually put in law under PFM Act of 55% plus 5%, but with a date of 2028, Mr. Speaker. So one of the issues that we raised to the Treasury was to ask, what is your timeline in terms of ensuring that our debt is manageable and has come down to the recommended percentage? Mr. Speaker, the CS Treasury was very clear that it has actually been on a declining, and we are now at 65.7, but very soon, and he actually gave by 2028, we should be looking not at 55, but at 53%, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issue of fiscal deficit, that is the difference between government revenue and spending in any fiscal year, has been approved this year as at 4.3% of GDP, and it is estimated to be at 3.5% of GDP 2026, 2027, and eventually at 3.2% in 2027-2028. Mr. Speaker, the issue of balance of this debt in terms of internal and external borrowing was another matter that was very critical. It has been actually proven that we are actually relying more on domestic borrowing than external borrowing, Mr. Speaker. And I know the external borrowing has been termed to be higher and more expensive. That is why you'll see the rates will be different, Mr. Speaker, because during our review, we were able to realize that the average interest charged on domestic debt is actually 13.2% relative to the interest rate on external debt, which is 3.7%. That's becoming substantially more expensive. But, Mr. Speaker, the reason why external borrowing is relatively cheaper than domestic is also due to the large share of concessional loans from multilateral lenders, Mr. Speaker, such as the World Bank and our development partners. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, 54% of the total external debt portfolio is concessional, and that significantly contributes to the sustainability of the Kenya's debt. The other issues that members raised, Mr. Speaker, is the issue of the right application of debt, Mr. Speaker. What does that mean? What it means, Mr. Speaker, is that there is no single country I have had in the world that does not have debt. But the issue of where does this debt go is what Kenyans and many of our voters are actually keen about. They want to be sure, if you are borrowing to build roads, which roads are these? If you are borrowing to do dams, which dams are these? And, Mr. Speaker, that is why one of the recommendations that we have put to the Treasury is that it should, in the next very few days, Mr. Speaker, form a working committee to assess the effective utilization of these borrowed funds. And this, Mr. Speaker, will be a cross-cutting team by ministries, MDAs, departments, Mr. Speaker, and also the Comptroller of Budget, so that we are able to incorporate how well we are able to monitor these debts, Mr. Speaker. The other recommendation, Mr. Speaker, will be that Treasury will be expected to record in the debt register the details of this utilization, Mr. Speaker. And that interagency team is supposed to do exactly that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, by our engagement to the Comptroller of Budget, a very brilliant lady, Mr. Speaker, we were able to find out that some of our neighboring countries are doing very well in terms of managing their debt and even making this information available, Mr. Speaker, because our Constitution and Article 35 actually ensures that you're able to get this information very easily. So it shouldn't be so hard to know how much are we owing, to which country, and in what terms, Mr. Speaker. And the Comptroller of Budget, Mr. Speaker, in appearing before us, was able to give us a very interesting, in fact, she had just come from Tanzania, and she told us that in the United Republic of Tanzania, it was observed that the country has implemented an advanced and fully functional automated debt management systems integrated with cash management system. Mr. Speaker, I think sometimes as a country we get jittery in terms of getting efficiency, because I think we have the brains, we have the know-how, and we know what to do, Mr. Speaker. That we should have an automated debt management integrated together with IFMIS, Mr. Speaker. This shouldn't be so hard to ensure efficiency and to ensure that we are able to move properly so that we can account for our debt shilling by shilling. Mr. Speaker, the other issue that she told the committee is that Tanzania has also achieved a single treasury account. And Mr. Speaker, what a single treasury account means, it means that you are able to track the monies better instead of having multiple accounts across the place, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I know there has been debate, especially on the 222, that is the e-citizen, Mr. Speaker, and the one pay bill that is for government, Mr. Speaker. But that, Mr. Speaker, is a medium. It is not the account. The issue would have to one single treasury account, then we'll be able to track our monies and be able to see exactly where our debt is going. Mr. Speaker, I know time is limited and I see my light is on, but I would like to also appreciate our Parliamentary Budget Office, Mr.
1 more minute.
Yes, just to wind up. Our PBO, Mr. Speaker, that is Parliamentary Budget Office, is quite key. And Mr. Speaker, even when we were doing these appearances, we were able to get staff members from Treasury, from the Parliament of Zimbabwe, actually benchmarking to find out how we do it, Mr. Speaker. So I want to appreciate all the teams, and Mr. Speaker, appreciate these members that sat long hours to ensure that we are here today. So, Mr. Speaker, thank you for the additional time. I second.
Thank you. Honorable members, I now do propose the question that this House adopt the report of the Liaison Committee on its consideration of the 2025 medium-term debt management strategy, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, the 5th March 2025, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 15.4 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012, and Standing Order number 232A, paragraph 7 and 8, A, approves the 2025 medium-term debt management strategy, and B, makes the policy and financial resolutions contained in the schedule to the order paper. No, you don't catch up there of the speaker by doing that. You know that very well. You catch up the speaker by logging in, and I will follow the table that is here. The first person on this table is the Honorable George Gitonga Murugara. Are you on this? Murugara, are you on this? But the Majority Leader, I cannot see your card, Majority Leader.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Mr.
This chance, Honorable Murugara, your chance was lost because you're busy. So you allow the Majority Leader to go first, then you'll go after.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for your indulgence. The Deputy Speaker is saying I never have a card. I usually have a card only that because of these crowds that were crowding here, I don't know who took the card. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support this motion on the adoption of the medium-term debt management strategy. And particularly, Honorable Speaker, I want to speak to a few things, policy propositions or policy resolutions that the committee has noted, which I fully concur with. And one is on automation, Honorable Speaker. And if you look at some of the policy resolutions, they say that the Cabinet Secretary from the National Treasury, the Governor Central Bank, and the Controller of Budget should fully automate the withdrawal of debt service payments from the Consolidated Fund by the 31st of May this year and submit a report to the National Assembly. Honorable Speaker, I want to support that because part of the problems why we cannot get accurate data on our debt indebtedness as a country is because we have not fully automated our debt management processes. Therefore, if you look at that together with the other proposal there, that in order to strengthen financial controls, we ensure accurate and timely debt management statistics and enhance decision-making for greater transparency and accountability. And again, they're asking that the National Treasury must or should integrate the public debt management system with the IFMI system, or the Integrated Financial Management System, again by 31st of May this year, and submit a report to the National Assembly within 15 days after the integration of the two systems. Honorable Speaker, it's become customary for this House to pass policy resolutions for enactment or for implementation by the National Treasury, and most of which they tend to ignore. And I want to tell them, Honorable Speaker, from these policy resolutions, there is reason and need to automate all our systems. And the integration of the IFMI system and the debt management system is critical in ensuring that we have accurate, timely data on our total indebtedness as a country. And at the same time, Honorable Speaker, in that the automation of the debt payment systems from the Consolidated Fund Services, so that at any one particular time at the touch of a button, any officer in Treasury, at the request of the National Assembly or indeed any other oversight authority, can be able to tell how much has been paid out of our consolidated fund towards debt settlement, how much do we expect to pay in terms of the interest that we are servicing for debt, Honorable Speaker. And all these things will be possible with automation. Honorable Speaker, the third thing that I want to speak to is a question of the single treasury account. And again, I note, Honorable Speaker, the committee has proposed that in order to mitigate the growing risk of domestic debt interest payments and to reduce the tendency of the government borrowing funds held by public entities, the National Treasury should deploy the single treasury account for all MDAs, parastatals, and public funds by 1st of July 2025. Honorable Speaker, allow me to speak to this in relation also to a directive that His Excellency the President gave during the State of the Nation address last year. Because previously, I think former President...
Honorable Kangogo, I'll not tire reminding you, I came to this House on 28th March 2013. You and the person speaking now. You can't be between him and the Speaker when he's contributing. You can't be.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Pukosa says Honorable Kangogo is very mobile today. I do not know whether there are cows that have disappeared somewhere in Marakwet East. Honorable Speaker, I was saying, I think during the last parliament, the then President Uhuru Kenyatta, at one point also directed that the National Treasury does actualize the single treasury account, and this never happens. Now it has been done through a resolution of the House that National Treasury has no choice but to actualize the single treasury account. Honorable Speaker, His Excellency the President was saying during the State of the Nation address, directed that by the 30th of April this year, the question of public procurement must be sorted out through e-procurement and ensuring that e-procurement goes of the interruptions. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. 1 minute for the interruptions. I was saying that directive by the President has about another 1.5 months to go. The National Treasury must also, in line with the directive by the President, ensure that e-procurement becomes a reality at the end of this first quarter. And by the time the National Treasury is bringing their annual estimates at the 31st or 30th or thereabout of April, they must also report to the House whether they have made the e-procurement a reality, as they report by May 31st on the automation of the IFMI system and the debt management system, Honorable Speaker, and also the single treasury account, because if there is a place that has become an avenue for corruption, is the question of funds being held by MDAs, ministries, and state agencies going to solicit for bribes, Honorable Speaker, so that they can bank in particular banks. And that is where you find many MDAs, you find them queuing, bank managers queuing in state departments and parastatals, Many parastatals are holding huge amounts of money, Honorable Speaker, in bank accounts, earning small interest. And the same money then is given to government in terms of domestic public debt. There is no reason why we should be borrowing. Government should be borrowing its own money, and we must ensure that the single National Treasury account becomes a reality, so that even when we borrow money, Honorable Speaker, we are not borrowing our own money. There is absolutely no reason why an MDA should bank in a commercial bank an interest of 4-5%, then we go back as government and borrow the same money from the market at 11-12%, Honorable Speaker. It is not right, and we must ensure it does not happen. And I say this, I hope the Cabinet Secretary of the National Treasury, the Honorable John Buddy, who is a former member of the Budget and Appropriations Committee and a former member of this House, is listening to me, and the PS Kipto. They must actualize the single Treasury account. The automation that the House is resolving through these policy resolutions must not just be talk and resolutions here, they must be actualized. And may I remind them, as the President directed, by the end of the first quarter, we expect to see e-procurement in place, as was directed during the State of the Nation address. I beg to support.
No, before you sit, what will happen to them if they don't do it? Because this is not the first time we have this single account. What will happen to them if they don't do it?
Honorable Speaker, it is not up to me to say what will happen to them if they do not do. But if the appointing authority has publicly pronounced himself...
No. This is now going to be a House
and
resolution.
The House resolutions,
yes.
Honorable Speaker, are in writing. These resolutions are given to the National Treasury upon approval by the House. When they receive them, they will know they can start counting days to the 31st of May and July for the actualization of the single Treasury account. If they do not do it, then they will know that we have teeth to bite. Those who have refused and threatened members of Parliament by the roadsides have seen what happens.
Rugara, now you can have your chance.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me also to rise and support the adoption of the report of the Liaison Committee on its consideration of the medium-term debt management system, which we have dealt with this afternoon. Honorable Speaker, it is extremely important for this House to know that it is supposed to control the debt of the country, and that in place it should be a management system which is easy to comprehend and which is understandable to the House. The problem we have in the country is that many people think we borrow money, we do not account for it, much of it is looted, as a result of which everybody, including those who are not born, are debt-ridden. It is not true to say so, because when we listened to the officers from the Central Bank and the Ministry of Finance, the Treasury, actually there are systems regarding our debt system, and unfortunately these are not known to the country. They are also even not known to members of Parliament, as a result of which we are all in limbo.